Hello everybody and welcome back to Weather Mountains. This is my overly explained tutorial Let's Play. It's been a little bit since I've recorded an episode of one of these, so before I dive into the playthrough itself, I'm just going to kind of talk about the goals of this series once again, as well as do a little bit of a fortress tour. Up here on the surface, we have our little trap tunnel with a varying set of traps, as well as outdoor farming. Now, a number of people have pointed out that yes, you can still build greenhouses in the outdoor farming by simply putting flooring over top, because the game doesn't consider that to be covering away the sky. I'm aware of this, but I think that if you make your setups completely impenetrable, that kind of removes a lot of potential for fun. For me personally, Dwarf Fortress isn't a game about making 100% sustainable, secure fortresses. That's a little bit boring. Dwarf Fortress, for me, doesn't really lend itself to that kind of gameplay. For me, I'm a lot more entertained when things can go wrong and will go wrong, because that is the fun of Dwarf Fortress for me. As for the fortress itself, the goal is to acquire a duke or a baron, some form of noble, whatever arrives first. We're not going to go for the full capital, king or queen. We're just simply going for a duke or a baron. Once we've acquired that, I will consider this series complete. As for the fortress itself, it is midwinter currently, and we are trading with our capital for tools. They are requesting tools. We've, of course, asked them to send us many different kinds of metal bars, but they've asked us to send them tools. So we do have a good amount of time before then, as it is midwinter in the year 103 currently. So as we scroll down into the fortress, you can see that our little artificial stream here is completely blocked up because, well, I mean, it's frozen on the surface, right? And then as we get down into here, we can actually see our weapons stockpile and our future expansion. We can see our cruddy little barracks that definitely needs work. We can see all of our bedrooms, and also somebody pointed this out in the comments. If I actually select on one of these beds and click on this button here, we can see who has quarters and who doesn't. And if you notice, as I scroll down, the only people that don't have quarters are actually children, with the exception of like this one axeman who is living here, as well as, just children. So children don't need their own bedrooms. They will share with their parents. Couple dwarves and dwarves that are in relationships will share a bedroom, and because they don't sleep very frequently in-game, it's never really a problem. They don't need to split beds or anything. Although if you want to be super fancy, I guess you could theoretically give them separate beds. We have our tavern in the middle. We have our first temple, and then we have this little spot up here, which is just kind of a mess of things. We have the Inky Tomes, and then right next to it, we have a small Doctor's Guild Hall, which is set to citizens only, so it doesn't get visitors. Up here, we have an unassigned office, and then Bubness, our mayor's bedroom, as well as Bubness's office. So if I check this, actually, did I actually give Bubness a dining room? Maybe I didn't. Jeez, okay, who actually has this assigned? That seems to be a problem. Well, let's just give that to Bubness. Anyway, does that, like, seriously increase his I guess it does. Maybe Bubness has two. Maybe I need to work on that. As we scroll around a little bit, if I go down to here, we can see that our captain of the guard is assigned to down here. Now, as you can see, it does actually state that they're overlapping. This does give them a value debuff, but I'm not actually sure how much of a value debuff it is if they're overlapping, so. And then down in here, okay, there's Bubness's actual dining room. Well, you know what? Bubness, congrats, you can have two dining rooms. That is okay for right now. And then we can look around the edge, we do have many bedrooms that still need cabinets. The reason there's pants in this particular one is because they don't have a cabinet like this dwarf does. So I don't know if I have any constructed right now, but theoretically we could go through and I could assign a bunch of cabinets. So I think I'm going to assign a bunch of cabinets, and then we'll continue with the fort tour once I have all of these set up, as well as any chests that I have lying around, because I do want to get all of these bedrooms fully set up. Now that I've got all of these bedrooms set up, something that I've noticed just right away that I need to deal with is, in that fight that happened a couple of episodes, Lytas, the siege operator, one of my military dwarfs, actually got quite injured, and they're not being properly attended to. Now, there's a couple of known bugs with the hospitals at this point that currently do desperately need to be fixed and are going to be fixed in the next update. However, in order to make hospitals work properly, they need to have both orderlies assigned and also have all of these jobs assigned. So because there's already an injured dwarf in here, I'm a little bit worried that this dwarf isn't going to get dealt with. I do have this chief medical dwarf assigned, who's also one of my performers, and I'm going to need a surgeon as well as a bone doctor assigned. And one of the ways that allegedly you can make them work even once when you have a injured dwarf, one of the ways that you can kind of trick them into doing the jobs is if you hit the orderlies button, set it to nobody does this, unpause the game, go back in here and go back to orderlies and set it to everybody does this, and then unpause the game. Hopefully this will get this dwarf tended to. I feel very bad that this dwarf has just been sitting here for some time bleeding and not being properly tended to. I think it would be an absolute shame if this dwarf passes away. So with a little bit of luck, we can get them dealt with. See here, our chief medical dwarf is now running off to go do surgery because they've been forced into doing the job again. If you notice that you have a dwarf that's just like sitting in your hospital and not being tended to, just remove all jobs and then reassign them so that somebody will go and deal with that poor dwarf. See, this dwarf does feel gratitude upon being helped, but like we need them to be properly tended to. And now suddenly they're all being properly tended to because we unassigned and then reassigned it. So as we continue with the fortress tour, we do have our military set up here, which we do need to start sending out on raids. And then down here we have our farming area, our very successful poultry area, as well as what needs to be a future animal tending area. So let's see what we can put in here. Now, I know that I probably had some sort of plan set up for this one, probably bears if I had to guess, but I'm thinking I'm going to put our dogs in here. And then as we slowly acquire more dogs, these dogs are going to become trained and assigned to various military dwarves. Just keep in mind, dogs that do get injured, and this includes combat, cannot be healed in the game currently. Injuries for animals are permanent. It's quite sad, but it just kind of is the way of things. So just keep in mind, if you are sensitive to the health of your animals, you may want to keep that minimal. Now this I would like to turn into a little farming guild, or maybe even a set of farming guilds. I'm just going to real quick assign a zone to it, and I'm going to talk about what kind of guild I'm going to make this into. So I want this to be a kind of planters guild, or alternatively just a general farmers guild. Of course, they haven't requested one yet, but this is just one of the guilds that I like to have around. Another one that might not be a bad idea to just build would be a rangers guild, as it does train certain specific skills that are very difficult to train elsewhere. One of those specifically being ambushing, which is very important just in general for military. But I'm going to set this to a farmer's hall, just so that we can begin developing this. Now, if you're ever running through your rooms and you're going, man, do I not have that? Did I already build that? Maybe you haven't played a save in a while. A very useful tab for this that I don't see many people using, and I used to always forget existed because it used to be opaque as heck and hard as hell to find, was this particular menu. Now, this is the places menu. It lets you check through and look exactly at what you have. Of course, it won't specify specifically what it is, but it will say at the very least who's assigned to what. So it will tell us that Bubness, the mayor, is assigned to this dining hall, as well as this one. We also have an unassigned dining hall, which is over here, which is just kind of our general dining hall for any dwarf that wants to go there. So that is okay. Now, keep in mind, very important thing to maybe keep track of is exactly the rooms that you've made. And on the topic of keeping track of rooms, we are doing a little bit of cleanup over here, and we have this unfortunate pile of bodies down here. Now, this unfortunate pile of bodies is made up of amphibian people who, well, let's just say they attacked us in the last episode. It was their fault. We have no remorse for them, but fortunately, they did bring us some free materials, which was very, very kind of them, if you ask me. But we do need to get those bodies cleaned up. Now, there are some tasks assigned already, and we do have some very unfortunate bodies such as Avuz is here. But as you can see, there's already a task which is symbolized by this tiny little check mark and an arrow icon, which means that somebody is coming to acquire it and move it. And we do also have a few of these bodies that have been set up, but I just want to get a general refuse pile set up in this zone because, well, it's pretty obvious that there's going to be more bodies coming out of down here, and frankly, let's just make it nice and easy for corpses to get put away. I'm just going to make this into a corpse pile with a little door on it, and the one thing I'm going to remove from the corpse pile is going to be dwarves' corpses so that my dwarves don't end up, working out down here. And we do also have our second military barracks down here, so I think we're going to work on a little actual proper military barracks for this lower zone. Now, there's several different places we could put it. We could try and place it down here, a little bit further down, or we could put it a little bit further up. I kind of like the idea of maybe having it in this wall right here because I think it would fit nicely. But the problem with putting it here is they wouldn't have a direct view of this entryway, which is really what we want. So probably the actual best place to put this would maybe even be connected to here, because then they could use this kind of upper ramp system to get down into here. We could easily build some stairs. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to build some stairs from the top here, straight down through to here. Now, constructed stairs are a little finicky. You can connect them to dugout stairs, but we're just going to use whatever material's closest. I'm not super picky in this instance, and we're just going to kind of make sure that there's a cork in all of these holes. And then once we're down here, I'm going to do a little bit of extra digging. We're going to expand this out just a little bit, and this right here is going to turn into a fortification so that we can see exactly what's on this other side here. And we're also going to give them a little exit right here so that they can get down and down into here very quickly. I'm also going to go into the digging screen, and we are going to dig from up here all the way down to there. So they have stairs, easy access, and can see exactly what's going on in these lower layers. And kiddo, what are you doing here? Playing Maple Leaf? Please don't tell me that one of your parents died there. That's a little distressing. Anyway, so that's kind of what we're gonna work on right now. And for the military area itself, essentially what I would like to have in here is, I'm not sure what we have for weapon racks right now, but I would like to have 10 weapon racks and 10 armor stands. And we're going to make sure that they have general beds and whatnot, or not general beds, but just some niceties around so that they enjoy their time in their training zone, and also just make sure that they have a good view on both sides of what's going on in either place. We want them to enjoy their time in the military barracks. We don't want them to hate it there. We want them to, generally be quite happy in the military. And if they're upset in the military, that's not good for the long-term playability of this fortress, because unhappy soldiers just equals dead fortresses as far as I'm concerned. So once I get this a little bit prettied up and set up, I'll continue speaking. Since they're still working on the barracks and now this little area up top is dug out, I'm going to build a body pile. Now keep in mind, if you make a refuse stockpile for any reason, if you add the refuse option, everything degrades significantly faster. So for corpses, I'm going to go here and I'm going to add everything except for dwarves. So everything has been added to this, corpses-wise, with the exception of dwarves. The second thing that I'm going to add here is refuse. And once again, we're going to just add all types of refuse. But we don't need to remove dwarves from this. And now anything that is put into here will degrade faster than it would normally. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're making stockpiles. If you add, for any reason, refuse to it, it will degrade faster. So hopefully these bodies will eventually get removed from here and just chucked into that, and then we won't need to worry about them so much. As we scroll down here a little bit, you can see that our stairs are starting to get dug out for our new barracks, and I'm going to get them smoothing this, and then, like I said earlier, I will check back in once this is pretty much good to go. So because I don't actually have enough armor stands and weapon racks for this setup, I've actually queued up a rock armor stand as well as a rock weapon rack for this little military barracks. I'm also going to throw this little door on the side. Now that this thing is pretty much good to go, however, I'm going to swap this down here. Oops, that is not the button I wanted to use. This is the button I wanted to use right here, the zone menu. So we're going to make a zone for this, of course, and this zone here is going to be assigned to that squad that's up top, which means we can now go up to here and say, guys, to the tin fells, we're gonna remove your training zone down here. We're actually gonna jump down here, and we are going to give you this. And of course, we would like them to store their stuff in here. I don't need to worry too much about ammunition, however, and they should come booking it down here and begin training. Most of them are enjoying their jobs as learning about dodging and various other things, and they will come running in and be ready to work, which is exactly what we would like. Now, also, since we have these stairs going through and we have this door here, I don't really want things running up here, so I'm actually just going to, block the entryway to that. Nice and easy. So now things that would like to enter into the fortress from these caverns actually have to go through my military. Ain't that cute? So, and one other final touch we need to do for this is I need to attach a entryway to right here. So any forgotten beasts or anything super scary that spawns has to run directly past the military. Now, some of our military kind of want to do other things with their lives. They want to practice crafts and whatnot. And we'll also take a look at our military and notice, man, they're all kind of using different weapons. So let's just check the weapons stockpile and be like, why is that? Look at all these lovely spears we have. Well, what we're going to do, actually, is we're going to select this squad. We're going to go to equip, and I'm going to click update equipment and see what this does. See if that checks any of these boxes and fixes anything. It doesn't appear to be. Well, why is that? Well, perhaps what we need to do is we need to assign a uniform. Let's just reset this and give them a new uniform. They're now going to suddenly think about what's available and then just go collect it. If you ever run into problems with the dwarves not putting on the right uniform and not putting on the right equipment, then they will run off and go equip stuff. Also, in regards to boots, I've noticed a lot of people having problems getting their dwarves to equip high boots. Well, this is simply because dwarves can't wear high boots over top of shoes. So if they're already wearing shoes, they're not going to be able to equip high boots. So if you want to make them use this, or use high boots, if your faction has access to them, simply set your uniform to wear over the equipment instead of simply set your uniform to replace equipment to replace clothing instead of worn over clothing, and then they will swap out for the right shoes. But it looks like we're going to need some shoes for both of our squads here, in fact, because nobody has shoes. We do have a surplus of iron, so I'm going to simply request my dwarves to make 20 low boots. So low boot, iron low boot, there we go, and I'm going to queue up 20 of them. Let's just make sure that we have the materials needed for that. So I'm going to go to bars. Of course, we have plenty of iron. We also have plenty of copper. And we have 18 charcoal. A little bit low on charcoal. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to take a real quick look here. And we do have this make charcoal thing queued up. And it is set to make more charcoal when the amount available is less than 10. So we will be fine for charcoal once that gets prepped. And you can see other dwarves running up here and grabbing the weapons of their choice, and they're now going to run back underground. Having a setup like this where things have to go through your military to get into the caverns is probably not the worst idea ever. Now, the next thing is it's late winter, so we're a season and a half, a bit more than that, away from having to work on stuff for trading, but I would just like to queue up some wheelbarrows because that's going to be our main trade good this season. So we're going to forge some iron wheelbarrows. Now, we do have 74, and I did just queue up a bunch of low boots, so let's just say 50 iron wheelbarrows, and just make sure that we have some iron that is being smelted. Now, if I jump over to the smelter thing here, I just like to do it this way because it's very easy to simply queue up the right material for it's very easy to simply queue up the right material for being smelting. So we're going to go with magnetite ore, and I'm just going to ask them to smelt some magnetite ore for us because we do just have some sitting around, I think. I'm not sure where, actually. Not in this stockpile, looks like it. We have hematite, though. So I'm going to get them to queue up hematite as well as magnetite, just so that we can get what we need set up. Now the game's loading, so I will simply skip this. All right, now that we're through the loading screen, we're going to click on the magnetite. So we got magnetite, and then actually what I wanted to do was hematite, not magnetite. So there's my hematite. Perfect. So I'm going to queue that up, and there we go. Nice and easy does it. Work's getting done. We got those wheelbarrows coming up. We got those low boots coming up. Let's actually pump those low boots up to the top because I do kind of just want my military to put those on. And we got all that going. We got this going, which is, lacking a little bit in niceties. So what we're going to do, actually, is we're going to queue this up a little bit, make this a little bit nicer, make this a little bit nicer, make this a little bit nicer, so that any dwarves that decide to go into our Farmer Guild Hall will be quite happy with this to begin with. Now, we do actually have some rumors that are being shared from abroad. I've had quite a few people ask me about those. The way you check your rumors is a little bit ambiguous here, but what we're going to do is we're going to click on news and rumors, and we can see all kinds of things moving around on the overworld. These are different soldiers, and we hover over the locations. It'll read a little bit about what's going on. Some refugees calling themselves the Lean Coalition fled the area just before the army of the last Moss invaded them. Well, that's a little horrific. Is there anybody that we're at war at? No, not so much. Well, I would like my military to go do some practice and begin poking some, hopefully, dead locations. So let's just peek around and see if I can find any interesting places that are empty that won't start any wars, at least, not intentionally. Fortress, there's a fortress here. No civilized population. But there is something called onslaught controls there. Well, I'm curious about onslaught controls. Let's see if I can send my squad out to go loot some important treasures. So I'm going to send them out with the goal of take important treasures and maybe release prisoners if they happen to be there, but there shouldn't be because it is a destroyed site. And let's take a peek around and see if there's anything else around. I want things that specifically have no civilized population because I want my dwarves to get a little bit of practice going out and doing things without actually running into issues. And it's a very easy setup to really do. You simply find a location, click on the location, and they will go out and fight. Now, lots of people have been talking about, man, I wish you could zoom in on this menu. That's coming. That's coming in an update, hopefully soon. I cannot wait until we can zoom in because you can't see me right now, but I'm about maybe a centimeter away from my monitor currently. We got some monasteries in here. Those are good, especially on higher resolution monitors. I wouldn't even want to think about how tiny this map gets. There's one right there. No civilized population. No interesting books or locations around that I'm seeing. Well, that's a bit of a shame. That's a bit far away. The Farm in the Modern Era, hey? That sounds like an interesting little book. We're going to continue working on this while the soldiers, as you can see if I actually hit Q on the keyboard and pop them up, you're going to see that they are, they have this little job here, which is explore rub mines. We got to go rub those mines, if you know what I'm saying. But when you click on them, they're actually all going to run off the map. Also, because we are making shoes, I'm going to go to my second squad here, and I'm going to reassign metal armor uniform. Bunch of them are going to go get shoes. We also need more greaves, so I'm going to actually queue up 20 iron, or not greaves, gauntlets. Iron gauntlet, and we're going to queue up 20 of them, which is going to take a little bit. Now, because I only have one of these set up, right? Only have one. Something I think that we probably should do is I should make a specific job over here in the work details screen specifically for armor smithing, because you kind of want a dwarf who's good at armor smithing. I'm going to do the same thing for weapon smithing. Now, I'm going to have maybe one, maybe two dwarves working on these particular jobs. When it comes to furnace operation and metal crafting and that sort of thing, doesn't really matter so much, but you do want somebody who's good at these tasks doing these tasks. So, armor smithing is going to be Zuntir or Logum here. Logum, well, novice, but I certainly wouldn't want a dabbling weaponsmith doing this job. Now, the way this labor system works is actually quite nifty. It sends whoever is the most qualified available dwarf for this task, but there are certain tasks that you want overly qualified dwarves for. So I'm actually going to remove Zuntir from doing other jobs, so they will simply idle until there is a accessible armor smithing job to do. And I'm just going to call this armor smith. And then the second one that I'm going to assign here is going to be weapon smithing. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. So we are going to find our legendary weaponsmith here, and I'm going to assign weapon smithing to these two tasks. And now you'll notice when I select somebody, it's going to automatically move this bar over here to only selected do this. It's going to just queue things up much faster and make things go by much quicker. Now, because I've just queued this up, I think it's time that we make a second what's it called? A metalsmith's forge. So I'm going to queue up a little bit of extra space here, and once this has been dug out, we will. So before I even started digging this out, I realized that our squads have already returned. It looks like they've returned. So we are going to go see what they gathered, if anything. I'm going to click on reports here on this screen, and it says mission report, explore rub mines. Were they able to find that item? They found nothing. Well, that's a shame. I guess the rumors were false then. Nothing actually was in that item. Even though that artifact is rumored to be there, doesn't necessarily mean it will actually be there. Let's see if we can find another location for them to go scout, though. I'm going to take a peek around once again. There is a good number of monasteries, but there's no rumored books or anything in any of these monasteries, which I do think is a wee bit of a shame. We are kind of limited to where we can actually go here, which is also a wee bit of a shame. But, I mean, there's like this human fort up here as part of this faction. The, looks like no faction. They're the human fort of kin spiders. They really don't have any interesting items. I don't know if we want to straight up attack them, though. That seems a little bit uncalled for and mean. But taking a peek around, of course, are some elves here that we have an alliance with. But nothing that we can really get to in this world. This world, unfortunately, is kind of designed as a simple location for tutorialization, and not something I really want to go all out into war with. There is a tomb here, however, and this tomb seems to be a member of the closed castles, and it's part of no larger faction. It's an unknown civilization. It's called Fiery Doubted. Let's go attack this tomb. We're simply going to go raid it and just see what we can find. We're going to send our main squad and go have a peek. Sometimes you'll find exciting things. Sometimes you'll fight against legendary creatures. Sometimes they'll just go and leave. We'll find out. Sending the squads back out. And we're going to, once again, go back to waiting for this to mine out. Do have 2 more Metalsmith's Forges queued up now, so we'll have a total of 5. That's a pretty good amount. I guess the goal here is to just simply be able to cram through these smithing jobs as quickly as possible, optimally, and dwarves, of course, that are doing military and metalsmithing will only be those 2 dwarves. The other ones will just be used for any kind of furniture jobs as they are needed. Now, something else that we're looking at here is we're kind of running out of charcoal. So I'm going to go down to this lower area here, and we're going to actually start using this zone down here that I dug out earlier and then proceeded to do nothing with. So we're going to go over to furnaces, and we're going to go to wood furnace down here, and I'm going to queue up a couple of these, although I'm going to be careful about what material because I might actually just be running off with my iron. I don't care so much about the metalsmith's forges. I think those should be made out of nice materials, and iron is fine in that instance, but for here, I think we're just going to stick with slate. We're going to queue up a few of these and then put another little wood stockpile down here, just so that these can be, worked as they should be, and have plenty of space around them for whatever jobs they need to complete. So we're going to get these queued up here, and we're going to set that to wood. And now we're just going to go check in on our military, shall we? So if we jump down to our military, we'll see that they're down here in training still, which is good. And also we have this little bodies stockpile here. And we've just got these amphibian spearmen here, which are just kind of chilling. I do hope they get removed at some point. Something else I'm going to check here is we're going to go back over to standing orders and just give it a peek and see what we have sitting here in standing orders underneath refuse and dumping. All right, so they are ignoring outdoor refuse and vermin remains. I'm going to turn that on just so that if this is the reason that these are getting ignored, I really would like those to be removed sooner rather than later, optimally. Does look like some stuff is getting removed now. Perfect. I do not want any vermin remains sitting here in my fort. An elven caravan has arrived. Well, would you look at this? Now, there's a lot of people that get really annoyed about trading with the elves, and I don't think that that is necessarily justified. They're just a bunch of weird forest hippies that like to eat the things that they kill in battle. Like, come on. Like, let's be reasonable with them and at least try and trade while we can. At least that's how I do things. But if you'll notice over here, our squad has already returned. So let's take a peek if they found anything or if anything exciting happened. So we do have a spoils report, which is good news. They were able to find some silver CMO strings, whatever the heck those are, probably a musical instrument, a giant copper axe blade, as well as a reindeer parchment sheet, so some paper. We also have 20 purple amaranth seeds, which is lovely, 2 rope reed gloves, an alpaca wool rope, another alpaca wood rope, and a wool thingy. And then the actual fight itself, if there was one, the Palace of Years slipped into fiery daunted, undetected by the closed castles of an unknown civilization, and we stole treasure. Treasure is, I guess, one dwarf's treasure is another dwarf's garbage. That was much more along the lines of garbage. Let's just go attack them this time. Let's pillage. Let's see what we can find. I'm curious about what's living there more than anything, and I'm not going to loot other items this time. We're only going to take more valuable treasures, but there really isn't any, so I'm not going to worry too much about the sorts of things that we find. Now, if you look up here, you'll see that we've kind of got this problem here. There's a lot of food in this stockpile, but they're just kind of piling up. And I know that I was going to do something with this area, and I'm going to go back through and find out what that was. But something we do need to do is we need to fill this up with anything. Literally anything. As long as this stuff is not sitting out here in the open. Because I've got all these plants and things, and they're not in barrels. We need them to be in barrels or rock pots. So let's actually check and see what our rock pots or barrels jobs are looking like here. There are none. So I'm going to queue up rock pot, and we're just going to do I like to just have rock pots around. And we do have a bunch of these stoneworkers shops, but not very many crafts shops. So I'm going to queue up a couple more of those over here. We're just going to make these out of bauxite because they're a nice color. And I'm not going to worry too much about anything else going on here. I'm just going to make some of those right there. And also, I think it's about time that well, I mean, I guess I could go up here and make a bridge. Okay, how are they actually getting down over there? They're going from there up there. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Now we have our dogs pastured over here, so they will start turning into more dogs, which is good. And looks like our tombs are getting filled up mostly. Looks like it. Perfect. And then the extras are not, which is also good. And then we're going to queue up that last one there. Or rather, we have extras lying about, which is also good. And we're going to get that done. So now those elves are probably ready to trade. So let's just go over to that location and get that done for today. I'm going to move goods to and from depot, and I'm just going to go with iron wheelbarrow, shall we? Let's just go to wheel. And those sell quite well, as you can see. They do have a value of 1,000. So let's queue up a couple of them. Not a ton of them, just a couple of them. And bring them up. And we can also actually go to gems, too. Well, I guess probably the better way to do this would be go to the cut gems section here. Cut gems. Looks like could just, well, I don't have enough just hanging out there, so we'll just bring these over and request the broker for the depot. And that's probably where we'll cap this episode off unless something crazy happens in the next few minutes. Does look like our military has returned, so we'll definitely have to check that as well once they're finished bringing these wheelbarrows up. And now that Mayor Bubness is here and ready to trade, we can trade with these elves. And looks like it's not too heavy for them, which is good. Which is good. Very, very good. Now we can go around and we can take a look at what they want to buy from us. I'm hoping that they'll be okay with this. I don't think that they have issues with something that used charcoal to be made. So, fingers crossed here. They should be okay with these. Should be. If they're not, then I will just simply be sad. I will buy all their leaves and fruit. They didn't really bring any fun animals, which I think is a bit of a shame. Yeah, just some empty cages. They did bring some fun musical instruments, but nothing I particularly need. So I'm going to just simply remove one of those because I don't need to trade all of them and give it a trade. And they say, wonderful. Thank you for your business. And they seem pleased with the trading. Well, that's lovely. I'm glad that they're pleased with the trading. So like I said, let's take a look at the world map now and see the reports from that last attempt. So this was a pillage attempt, meaning we attacked them. Let's see what we found, if anything. So if I pause this here, the Palace of Years attacked the closed castles of an unknown civilization at fiery dubbed. The dwarf Coulette led the attack, and the defenders were led by the human Inspa's fang frames. In the early spring of the year 104, the dwarf Coulette outmatched a human who was living there with a cunning plan, and the attackers had a strong positional advantage there. So this could either be some weird group that is trying to become necromancers. This could be just a mercenary company that's using this as a campsite. These could be refugees. This could be any number of things. It appears that we confronted them. A human was struck down. A yak cow was struck down. So it was a human and a yak cow. So this could have been many different groups of people. We did find nothing. So I guess we attacked some dude and their cow and killed them and left. We are good people, naturally. Yep, definitely. We are not the baddies. I can assure you that. And once again, we are, I swear, not the baddies. Now, since we've attacked people and we're not the baddies, we're probably going to go after them in the next episode. But thank you very much for watching this episode of Weather Mountains, my overly explained Let's Play. I'm going to do more series of these in the futures, and the goals of this one's here is to simply acquire a noble. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.